Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Public Building Commission of Chicago's Pre-Submission Conference for the Request for Proposals for Job Order Contracting Services, PS 3093, being held today, November 21st, 2024 at 11 a.m. My name is Patricia Montenegro, Deputy Director of Procurement, and we will begin here with a few housekeeping items. Please ensure you mute your computers and microphones. Please change your screen name to identify yourself and your company name. Please put your name and company name in the chat. And then please wait for the Q&A sessions to ask your questions. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of certain sections throughout this presentation. All right, and this presentation, along with the sign-in sheets, will be available on the current opportunities page. And I'll just give a few more seconds here for people to change their screen name and add their name to the chat. And then we'll proceed with the presentation today. Moving forward, so at this time, I'd like to introduce Ray Gitteroff, the Executive Director of the PBC, to provide a warm welcome. Ray?
Good morning, Patty. This is Ray Gitteroff. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining this non-mandatory pre-submission conference. As part of our overall effort to continue to provide value to our municipal and county partners, we are going to re-procure JOC contractors for our JOC program that we do rely on as one part of how we deliver projects for our municipal and county partners. So Patty, thank you. I appreciate this, and I'm looking forward to this pre-submission conference.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. So some of the work that the PBC performs under the JOC order contracting services are new construction, renovation, site development, energy conservation measures, infrastructure improvements, and emergency repairs.
Hi, Patty. It's James Borkman. Are you sharing your screen?
I believe I was. Here we go. Thank you, James. As apparently, there we go. Apologies. All right. And then here are some of the photos of some of the work that we've done. And at this time, we'll turn it over to Michael Judd, and he is from the Gordian Group, and he will be going over the job order contracting program and the description of services. Michael?
Very much, Patricia. Welcome, everyone, to this pre-submission call. My name is Michael Judd, and I am the Regional Director here with Gordian. Again, we really appreciate your time being on here to talk about the PBC program. So what is the PBC Job Order Contracting Program? As Ray had mentioned earlier, it's for PBC's municipality and county partners, as well as projects that they have in-house deciding to run through job order contracting. So as far as the job order contracting overview, JOC is identified as an IDIQ, which is indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity process, where the proposers are going to propose an adjustment factor in your submission to pre-established unit pricing rates that come from our construction task catalog. And we're going to start getting into that in a little bit in some future slides, but it's an IDIQ process that ties directly to your adjustment factor. So we are in part one right now. This is a standard logo that Gordian has, but specifically it's a pre-submission. So We're in part one, where you are going to submit your proposal for the PBC's review. And there's a whole evaluation criteria in which we'll get to later in this presentation, but PBC has advertised the RFP for this contract. You as the contractor will be submitting a submission for PBC's review. And then if you are to be awarded as one of the pre-qualified set pool of contractors under the PBC contract, then you'll be awarded and move into part two, which includes the IDIQ portion, which is procuring individual projects from PBC post-award, which can lead to several projects at one time. And that would lead to opening subcontracting opportunities. So hopefully, if you're a subcontractor on the call, you'll definitely get some good information out of this as well. Once you are in part two, there is a JOC general 5-step process. Now, PBC has a very specific process they go through. However, the JOC process post-award would entail a request for proposal, in which you would develop that proposal, or I'm sorry, you would have a request for proposal and go into a joint scope meeting with PBC. Then that proposal would be developed using the eGordian software, which we'll also go into in a little bit. Then the PBC and you as a contractor would go into a proposal review. That could be clarifying any scopes of work, clarifying any line items that you're using, value engineering if needed, etc. And then ultimately, once the PBC and the contractor agrees to that proposal, then the PBC would issue that job order as a lump sum to get into the field to start executing the construction of the work. So it's a very expedited procurement process that the PBC will utilize as part of their other procurement processes as well, including in-house trades, traditional bid, etc. So why does job order contracting work for the contractors? The profit of a job order contracting program is really a function of the volume, and the volume is driven by the performance. Now, although PBC can't fully commit to establishing, projects over the course of 3 years consistently, of course, as any other program, there might be periods where contractors get a few projects at one time, and there might be periods where that doesn't happen. However, the performance matters on this contract because ultimately it provides that steady contract with the PBC. It establishes that long-term relationship with PBC and develops a partnership with you. Also, as a contractor that holds a JOC contract, it reduces the risk by having the ability to provide input during the project scope development. So you can, on that joint scope meeting, provide your valuable input as the project subject matter expert in helping the PBC accomplish their problem, which is the detailed scope of work or the upgrade to a system or what have you. Why JOC works for subcontractors is there are no projects that are identified at the time of bidding. So the prime contractor, at the time of this submission for the contract. So the prime contractor cannot staff to fully self-perform, whether it's carpentry or any sort of other trade. So they're going to have to utilize the subcontracting community. Also, as you'll see later in this presentation, there are MNWBE goals that must be met. So a contractor will be engaging the subcontracting community that way anyway. And it's a simplified procurement process for the PBC, allowing them to procure more work in a shorter period of time using that pre-qualified pool of contractors. And then why job order contracting works for the PBC? They're able to use this program for the fixed priced fast track procurement process, where they can issue job orders based on lump sum pricing on that pre-priced construction task catalog. And that's really important because that leads the PBC to have on-call contractors in that pre-qualified pool ready to perform those series of projects at any kind of different location using those competitively bid pricing. It also gives them the ability to accomplish substantial number of individual projects with the single competitively RFP contract. And then the project schedule and the financial flexibility through early coordination and scope reconciliation, along with relying on the means and methods of each project. And then in emergency situations where there are minor maintenance and repairs that the PBC has to remedy as quickly as possible, they can utilize JOC and utilize a contractor in that pool to quickly dispatch and direct on-call general contractors to remedy the situation. So I brought up the adjustment factors earlier when I was kicking things off. So really, the purpose of portion of the presentation is to describe, first off, what is an adjustment factor, and then why is it important, right? When you're talking about a preset catalog of the construction task catalog, there are over 250,000 line items that are preset from divisions 1 through maybe 32 or division 40. When you are going to provide your submission to the PBC for their review and evaluation, one of the key, if not the most important aspect of it, is the adjustment factor, where this adjustment factor is a multiplier applied to those construction tasks that may increase or decrease the pricing listed in the CTC. You will, as a contractor in this bid, or in this submission, I apologize, will need to submit factors for a certain tier. There are 3 tiers, and we're going to show that in a little bit, but you will be submitting normal working hours and then other normal working hours to each tier. And then the adjustment factors should include direct and indirect costs that are not included in the preset prices. And we're going to go over that with overhead and profit, insurance and bonding, etc. But the importance of the adjustment factor is it determines who's going to be awarded on the pre-qualified pool of contractors. It's going to be used to price individual job orders post-award, and then that proposal becomes the lump sum job order amount when the project is being issued a purchase order to move forward or an NTP in construction. Next slide, please. So the adjustment factors also include business costs and project-related costs. For the business costs here, the office overhead and profit, so your costs and responsibilities of maintaining a fully functioning field office and whatever expenses you have as a business owner is included in that overhead and what kind of profit that you want to see on the individual projects. The insurance, there are stipulations for what's included in the insurance in the contract, and then bonding, which includes payment and performance bonds. The business cost that should be included in the adjustment factor also includes the time for job order development services or owner meetings and other administrative services. And then, as I alluded to, there are going to be subcontracting opportunities. So the contractor who's going to provide a submission to BBC must also take in consideration the subcontractor's overhead and profit, and then the cost of financing the work or any business risks that may be involved. And then project costs. So unless specifically requested by the PBC, these costs are included in your adjustment factor. And this is in book 3 in the contract. So project trailer, for example, or equipment, supplies, portable toilets for the contractor's use, that is in the adjustment factor. The project management and supervision, the services required to complete project filings and obtaining the permits and submitting those accurately and responsibly, preparation and modification of incidental sketches, drawings, submittals, as-built drawings. Those are all included in the factor. Unless it requires a stamped drawing, these are all included. And then basic safety and warning signage, minor barricades, and personal safety equipment are also included as a project cost in the adjustment factor. So when you calculate your adjustment factor for your submission, there's really 2 things that we're going to be going through today, and is what you need in order to calculate the adjustment factor, because again, it's critical. It's what the PBC is going to be evaluating on your submission, what you need, and then how to calculate it. So you do need historical scopes of work that are similar to the PBC's general scope of work in this RFP. You will need the construction task catalog that's provided in the bid submit or in the solicitation documents. It's book 3, and we'll be showing that here in a little bit. You do need your overhead costs current to date, including project related costs, and your desired profit margin. And how you would calculate that is you calculate the direct final cost of the historical project, add on that overhead and profit that you seem or deem desirable, price that historical project from the CTC using those direct costs and that scope of work, and then dividing that subtotal based on the historical project, adding on your overhead and profit by the direct cost of the CTC to determine what your factor should be. So that is an adjustment based on your cost or estimates that you have outside of the CTC and the job order contracting program. So we're going to be diving into that here in the next few slides. So we're going to be using this project as an example. It's going to be using normal working hours, and it's an interior renovation. So this would be an example of a detailed scope of work at a general level where the PBC is requesting the contractor to go on a joint skill meeting, and this is the detailed scope of work. So you'll be replacing a boiler, which would be furnishing all equipment, materials, and labor to replace a boiler with a high efficiency boiler. Included in that area may be doors and hardware. So you'll be replacing 12 doors. They specified the types of doors that they need with grade 2 lock sets and push bars. Interior lighting. So they want you to replace all the lay-in troffer fixtures on multiple floors. There's 48 total. This scope includes 4 exit fixtures and 12 industrial fixtures in the shop area, and then plumbing fixtures. So there's a certain part of the room that they also want to replace 8 bathroom sinks, faucets, etc. So this is for sample purposes only, but this would be a general detailed scope of work. Next slide. So based on your historical projects for what those certain areas of scope costs, or your estimates that you're putting together outside of the construction task catalog, or your quotes that you've received for some of this work in the past, you're going to compare those direct costs to the CTC. So as you build that proposal using the CTC, which is book 3, you're going to determine that replacing the boiler is going to cost $33,000. The doors and hardware is $8,282, and etc. So your total for that scope of work from the direct costs in the CTC is going to add up to $66,344.12. Comparing that to your direct cost of, again, your historical project or quotes or estimates, those are going to vary a little bit. However, your total cost is going to come to $65,000. So at first glance, it's good news. The CTC is providing more, about $1,000 more of direct costs. However, this does not include desired overhead and profit. So if we go to the next slide, please. How you would do that is you would take your direct costs from the work or quotes or historical projects that you've done in the past and add your overhead. Now, please keep in mind, this is just a sample only. Your overhead and profit, that's dictated by you, but for the sample of this pre-submission conference today, we're using 10% overhead, 10% profit. So if you have 10% overhead, that adds $6,500 to the $65,000, which would come to the new subtotal in line C of $71,500. You would then add your profit, $7,150, and that subtotal with the cost of overhead and profit from your direct quotes now comes to $78,650. The price from the CTC, however, because that did not include overhead and profit, those are direct costs in the book, are $66,344 with 12 cents. So the way that you determine your adjustment factor is you would need to divide line E by line F, which would give you a factor of 1.1855. So you are putting your adjustment factor of an 18% increase to account for your overhead and profit. Again, this is for sample purposes only, but this is how you should determine your adjustment factor. And don't do it on one project. We highly recommend please do it on several different projects to align with what you're comfortable with in your submission for the PBC's review. Next slide, please. So again, the adjustment factors on your submission are critical for the evaluation criteria, number 1. But number 2, if you are to be awarded in that pre-qualified pool of vendors, then that factor, in addition, is used to price individual job orders. So this factor throughout the course of the contract is not going to change. The construction task catalog will be renewed and pricing updated on an annual basis, depending on the award date of the contract. And that's going to be annual. So the price or the adjustment factor will not change on this contract. So it's critical that you provide an adjustment factor that you are going to be comfortable with over the course of the term of this contract. Because when you, or if you are awarded a vendor, each proposal is going to have those individual line items using the CTC. And each line item in that proposal includes that adjustment factor, which then multiplies by the unit price and the quantity for the total of that specific task. And all of those tasks add up to a total job order price, which then becomes a lump sum for the detailed scope of work. So it is critical that you go through this exercise and understand what you're comfortable with in your submission on this contract. So the award is going to be based on the best value. So this price is the adjustment factors, and you can see the adjustment factor for projects greater than $1 million and 1 cent for normal working hours and other than normal working hours have a weight distribution of 50% for normal working hours, 30% for other than normal working hours. The same thing is going to be applied to for projects between 300,000 and 1 cent and 1 million for normal working hours. Again, it's going to be 50%. For outside or other than normal working hours, it's going to be 30% for those projects in between 300,000 and 1 cent to 1 million. And then for projects equal to or less than 300,000, normal working hours again is 50%. Other than normal working hours is 30%. And then there is a non-pre-priced adjustment factor to include as well. That would be for line items that are not included in the construction task catalog. And we'll get into that as well once we get into the bid books. However, that's going to be a 20% evaluation. So for considerations of this submission, normal working hours are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. except for holidays. And then other than normal working hours are Monday through Friday, 6:01 p.m. to 5:59 a.m. all day Saturday and Sunday and holidays. So once you determine, based on using your historical data and your historical projects or your direct quotes or estimates, you go through the exercise of several projects and you determine that you're comfortable with, and for this purpose only, we're using 1.1855 for normal working hours. This is the submission form that you will be illustrating those adjustment factors on. So for line 1, for the purpose of showing one of them, 300,000 or less than 300,000. Normal working hours is 1.1855. It's going to be multiplied by that weight to give you a total of 0.5928. We did not show the other than normal working hours calculation, but you can kind of get an idea based on the other than normal working hour time. For the example of today, it's 1.2080. That would be multiplied by that 30%, which would be 0.3624. And then for non-pre-priced, the same calculation would apply. And then you would add all of the totals in the right column to get to that adjustment factor figure. Considerations for not only submission of this document to the PBC, but also if you are a vendor, again, that's awarded in that pre-qualified pool, in the event that an immediate emergency response is necessary, the contractor is going to be required to follow the alternative procedure as established by the PBC in this contract. So you must understand that if there is an emergency that happens and the PBC calls you as the contractor, you shall begin to conduct that work, notwithstanding the absence of a fully developed RFP or detailed scope of work. However, the contractor shall be compensated for that work as if the work had been ordered under standard procedure. And those emergency procedures are outlined directly in PBC's contract. Please refer to that. However, in a standard procedure process, you might be asked to prepare incidental drawings or sketches, as I mentioned earlier. You may be asked to justify quantity calculations in your proposals. You may be asked to explain the detailed scope of work so that you understand exactly what needs to be done and that PBC has a comfort level that you understand what needs to be done. You're going to be asked to prepare for proposals that might be canceled, and sometimes that happens in this line of work. The margins on the CTC tasks vary between divisions in the book. You must maintain a fully functioning field office, hold all the required licenses in this contract and as a contractor, and you may be asked to prepare bid safe proposals. And bid safe is in the contract as well, but it's a process that amongst the pre-qualified pool of contractors, you might be submitting a bid against some of those other contractors in the pool. So that is in the contract as well, but these are considerations that you should take into consideration when developing the adjustment factor. The risks of a low adjustment factor, just to highlight here today, it may lead to proposal building performance and evaluations, which means it may take longer to review proposal and creates a stalled job order development, which is not good for anybody. It's not ideal or even contractually obligated, or your performance will be greatly impacted, because it can lead to a reduced volume of work and project assignments. Because again, the PBC has a pre-qualified pool post-award that they can go to any of the other vendors. So if you provide unsupportable construction task items in those proposals or exaggerated quantities that don't line up with the detailed scope of work, that's going to lead to performance issues that can have great impact on you as a contract. And PBC can elect to not extend or grant additional options to you. So you may want to please take that into consideration. And at the end of the day, if you don't have that contract, it can lead to lost profitability with really no second chance to improve your margin, because again, that adjustment factor is staying the same throughout the course of this contract. So to highlight the review of the key points about the adjustment factor and what you should expect for the submission on this RFP, you want to focus on the total potential value of the contract and really evaluate the construction task catalog. So analyze the unit prices, know the general guidelines for using the CTC, and we're going to highlight some of those here in future slides. But ultimately, contractor performance matters. So you as the contractor, if you are selected to be a part of this pre-qualified pool, you must have responsive service. You must provide accurate proposals. You must maintain safe and clean project sites. You must have high quality construction, and then on time closeout and completion of the projects. We did also want to highlight that there is a contractor license fee on this program. It's to access the Gordian software. It's a Gordian internet-based software provided with your contract. And the Gordian JOC management software expedites the process by giving you, the contractor, a license to build proposals and estimates. It gives a license to build subcontractor lists and reporting for the MNWBE compliance goals. It gives you the flexibility to track your projects and milestones, and provides you the required job order forms that the PBC needs to process the individual job orders accordingly. This license fee is 1%. And I apologize. The license fee is 1%, and it shall be equal to 1% of the job order price. However, that 1% is not to be included in the proposals on the individual projects. It needs to be included, and it is included in the adjustment factor. So you should consider this in your adjustment factor development as well, that there is a 1% fee on all projects moving forward. All right, now we're going to highlight some of the contract documents. The solicitation document is the RFP document for the job order contracting services, PS 3093. Book 2 are the standard terms and conditions. There is an update via addendum number 2. And then book 3 via addendum number 1, which is the construction task catalog. And then the technical specifications that also has an addendum number 2 as well. But we're going to highlight some of these a little bit, but get into much more detail later on. So the RFP document, this is really the instructions and execution documents for the submission. This is an introduction to the key information in this RFP. It gives a project summary of the PBC. The evaluation criteria, which includes those adjustment factors, are in this RFP document. the submission requirements that are necessary to submit this document to the PBC for their review, which includes submission forms A through M, and then exhibits A through K. So you want to make sure that you comply with all the requirements when it's time for that submission. Book 2 are the standard terms and conditions, which includes general provisions to this contract and the PBC, the required project organization necessary, the contractor's obligations on this contract, the contractor's rights of assignments and subcontracts, the identification, payments and performance bond, insurance requirements, permits and licenses, contractors' practices at the site, coordination with owners, personnel, schedule, and meetings and progress documentation. Really, these are the bylaws in which you are expected to follow as a contractor under this contract. And then for job order contracting, this is book 3. This is the construction task catalog. So it's a catalog of preset construction tasks, which are organized by the Construction Specifications Institute, the CSI. And this book is based on local labor, material, and equipment costs. All of the tasks in this book represent the scope of work for this contract. So that's why it's critical that you as the contractor, if you are going to be providing a submission for this contract, must review and understand the using the construction task catalog. And that's pages 1 through 6 of that book. So this is a screenshot of what a PDF will look like once you download the book 3 for your review. This is curbs, gutters, sidewalks, and driveways using CSI Master Format Division 3216. And how to review this is there's general sections and sub-tiers of the section. So 32, 16, 13 are curbs and gutters, which includes transitions. Demolition includes 2 saw cuts at each end. So when you're building your proposal, you need to understand what is included in the section and what's not. And these cuts and curbs and gutters are for lengths of up to 100 feet. If there's other activities, it refers you to CCSI section 024119 for additional curbs within the 100 feet. And then more specifically, cast in place concrete curbs and gutters, the note says it includes concrete forms, rebar, chairs where necessary, expansion joints, etc. So you cannot build those line items into the proposal because this line item includes those items already. And then going a little deeper, the concrete curb cast in place includes the delivered concrete, the forms, the rebar, the chairs, the expansion joints, and the finish and the curing. And then it goes a little deeper into a tier where then it gets broken out into specific lengths and linear feet. So in this case, it would be 6x12 cast in place concrete curb. Now, without getting into the modifiers for a second, that would be the full description of the task. So that's the second blue box that you see here. The third blue box at the top says price includes labor, material, and equipment for your location. So for that line item, the 6x12 cast in place concrete curb, the install quantity for the direct unit cost is $7.18 per linear foot. And the demolition price, if the detailed scope of work calls for the demolition of an existing curb and you're installing a new curb, the demo price is $3.23 per linear feet for that as well. Now, the modifiers are an economy of scale for variations or quantity discounts. So if you have a quantity up to 20, then you want to use that modifier to add an additional $4.03. Conversely, for quantities that are over 1,000, you're going to have to select the modifier discount of $1.50. It's an economy of scale, and it's modifiers that are on most line items in the CTC. So you want to make sure that you look out for that as you evaluate the CTC. So book 3 also, as I mentioned earlier, has you understanding and utilizing the construction task catalog. The screenshots on the right shows, I'm sorry, I'm getting a couple pop-ups here. The screen on the right shows the PDF version of what it looks like. However, the unit prices also include certain items like complete and in-place construction. It includes the cost of delivery to the project site, unloading, storage, and handling, testing, calibration, and balancing for new work, tasks such as windows, doors, frames, countertops, do include that sealant and caulking. And then portable toilets, field offices, field office equipment, again, that's in your adjustment factor. So these are pretty much the rules of the CTC to abide by, which are in these contract documents. For non-pre-priced tasks, I mentioned this as part of the adjustment factor bid or the adjustment factor submission form. The contractor must have permission from the PBC to utilize a non-pre-priced task. Now, this can be a very specific task that is not found in the construction task catalog. You should do the best that you can to identify that line item in the construction task catalog or consult with the Gordian team. Now, if you're on the call today and you've never had a job order contract, have been awarded a job order contract, we are here to help educate you and guide you so that, understanding that if you don't have JOC experience in the past, that should not stop you from providing a submission of this bid if you're comfortable with the terms and conditions of this contract. However, you should also consult Gordian to make sure that we can't identify that line item in the CTC. But ultimately, you must have that permission from the PBC to utilize a non-pre-priced item. In order to do that, you must provide 3 quotes from subcontractors and utilize the lowest quote for that competitive bid aspect on that individual job order. If you cannot get 3 quotes, then you must provide justification or best efforts to obtain 3 quotes for PBC's review. And then book 4 are the technical specifications. This ties directly to book 3. It corresponds with the tasks in book 3 of the construction task catalog, and it specifies the quality of materials and the workmanship in those line items in the CTC. And PBC reserves the right to include additional specifications on any individual job order after the submission. So with that, before we move to another section of this pre-submission pre-conference, any questions on the job order contracting aspect?
And Michael, before we even move into questions, I just want to take a minute here to reiterate that this presentation, along with the sign-in sheet, will be posted on the current opportunities page on PBC's website. And then we also ask that those individuals who have not identified themselves in the chat, please do so at this time with your name and company name, as well as please change your screen name if able to as well. Thank you. And then we can proceed now with questions. Any questions?
Harindra Mangrola from Sumit Construction.
Hi, Harindra. Do you
Hi.
have a specific question for Michael?
No. I just introduced myself. I joined a little late.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Any questions for Michael with regards to his presentation on the job order contracting program? Okay. James,
no questions in the chat, Patty.
No questions. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, at this time, we'll proceed with the next part of the presentation, which are the procurement details. Okay. So we are currently in the procurement phase of this project. The RFP was issued on November 5th, and the pre-submission conference is the 21st, not the 11th. Apologies for that. Questions deadline is December 3rd, and the submission due date and time is December 10th by 4 p.m. And then we have an evaluation period that will go through December 11th, 2024 to January 3rd, 2025. And then we anticipate taking this project to the PBC Board of Commissioners on January 14, 2025. Document availability, the current opportunity page on our website has the RFP documents, which consist of, again, the RFP solicitation or what we consider book 1. Then book 2 is your standard terms and conditions. Book 3, the Gordian Group's construction task catalog. Book 4, the technical specifications. Now, this presentation will be posted again on the current opportunities page. The current links here take you to where these documents have been uploaded and updated per the specific addenda that Michael referenced earlier. So book 2 and book 4 were updated via addenda number 2, and book 3 was updated via addenda number 1. Please continue to monitor PBC alerts and the current opportunities page for any updates to these specific books here. Again, the pre-submission conference material will be posted on the current opportunities page, which will be this PowerPoint presentation and the sign-in sheets. And then available now are the 2 addenda that have been issued. Requests for information should be submitted to my attention in writing via email to patricia.montenegro@cityofchicago.org. Submission requirements. We ask that your submission, which will be emailed, should be a PDF document. It should be a searchable PDF document and not a scanned copy. So we understand that there are items within the RFP that we ask that you provide that are necessarily available only as a scan, such as like your general contractor license and whatnot. So those particular items can be scanned along with the submission, but it's the other aspect of the PDF that should be searchable. We ask that all signatures be in blue ink or digital signature. We ask that it be tabbed and in the order prescribed in the submission requirements. We also ask that the document, the file that's going to be emailed, be labeled as such on the screen here, and that one complete copy of the RFP document be submitted via email, and that email should go to pbc-procurement@cityofchicago.org and patricia.montenegro@cityofchicago.org. Financial statements, 3 years of financial statements marked as confidential and emailed as a separate secure file. If submitting in hard copy, please make sure that it is sealed in a separate envelope. On the screen is a list of our assist agencies who also have the RFP document and should be available to assist you if you have any questions with preparing your RFP submission. We're going to go into a few contract highlights. Again, as Michael presented in his portion of the presentation, the book 1 instructions and execution documents consist of, the RFP document, the introduction, key information, project summary, evaluation criteria, submission requirements, the forms, and the exhibits. And then book 2, standard terms and conditions, which highlight some of the general articles that you will find within that book. And specifically noted is the JOC supplemental conditions that is found as one of the last exhibits within that book. So this RFP, once we receive your submissions, the submissions will be turned over to our evaluation criteria, and they will be looking for specific details with regards to these specific evaluation criteria categories here. So as listed on the screen, technical competence and past performance is at 25%. Qualifications and relevant experience of key personnel at 25%. MBE, WBE, past participation, 20%. Price, 20%. Financial capacity, 5%. References, 3%. And responsiveness to the overall submission requirements of this RFP will also be evaluated. So essentially how well you've completed the documents and followed the instructions set forth in the RFP document. So I will not be highlighting every single form there is in the RFP. I will just go over very briefly here those that we would like to highlight to ensure that respondents complete them. And the first one here is Form A, technical competence and past performance. So there's a form provided. This is only page 1 of the 2 documents. So there is the form, and then there's a narrative. On the second page, there is a space available for a narrative if necessary. There are 3 tiers, as Michael stated earlier. And for those who submitted previously, just a bit of alert here that Tier 1 is now for the value greater than $1,000,001. And then Tier 2 is for value between $301 and $1 million. And then Tier 3 is for projects with a value of 0 to 300,000. And so here we want to make sure that you identify a sheet for a total of 3 projects within each tier that you're submitting for. Form B, key personnel. Want to make sure that you highlight whatever role the person here is serving as in your firm, and then provide the level of experience with references for this particular individual. And we want to make sure that you attach that resume. Form D is the legal actions, and we would just want to make sure that you make a notation for any question that is a yes. We want to make sure that you have provided a typewritten brief description of the whys in your responses here. Apologies, my computer's, there we go. Form F is the safety form. So here's a little bit tricky here. So tiers 1 and 2 will complete the Form F. So tiers 1 and 2 are to complete Form F. Tier 3 does not have to complete Form F. Then there's going to be other aspects of safety that we're going to take a look at, and those are the safety program manuals, and that is to be provided by tiers 1 and 2. And then the quality assurance and quality control plan, along with the project scheduling, will be submitted by tier 1 respondents only. There will be a clarification issued in an addenda for this. Form G, references. So there's, we just did a snippet of the page, but there is a total of 3 references that you're going to provide. We want to make sure that your reference is, or you should make sure that your reference is aware that you're going to be putting them on this form. Your reference should be someone who's going to be given giving you a favorable reference. Oftentimes I've called and then the reference is not so favorable. So let's make sure that everybody's on the same page when providing a reference. Contractor proposal. So we have a sheet where you're going to identify all of the addendas that have been issued for the project. We just want to make sure that you have taken into consideration all of the details that we have clarified within the RFP. And then Form K is your acceptance and understanding of the RFP. There's a submission checklist, which should aid you in ensuring that you are providing all of the documents and everything that we have requested within the RFP document. So again, there are 3 tiers. Tier 1 for projects greater than $1,000,001. And then tier 2, projects between $300,000.01 and $1 million. And then tier 3, projects equal to or less than $300,000. Contracts will be awarded to those firms offering the best value to the PBC in terms of technical qualifications and price. And the PBC reserves the right to award to other than the lowest price submittals and other weighted factors in the best interest of the PBC. There is a JOC deposit required with your submission. So for tier 1, it would be in the amount of $20,000. For tier 2, $10,000, and for tier 3, $5,000. The contract value is $6 million. Contract term is for 4 years with 2 one-year options. We have scheduling software requirements. They are project specific. Sometimes we'll either ask for it in Excel project, Microsoft project, or P6, depending also on the capacity that you have to submit the schedule. Liquidated damages, tier 1 is $1,500 per day, tier 2, $1,200 per day, and tier 3, $1,000 per day. Prevailing wages, not less than the prevailing wages as determined by the Illinois Department of Labor. And then there's payment and performance bond requirements that once you submit once you have been awarded a JOC contract and then you are requested to submit a proposal, you'll be required to submit a payment and performance bond. But also within the RFP, we will need your bonding capacity. So just a letter ensuring that you have the bonding capacity, what the current amount of the bonding capacity is, and how long the bonding company has been providing bonds. Insurance, respondents must submit a sample of the certificate of insurance, just showcasing your current coverage limits. Again, once you're asked for the proposal, we're going to ensure that your certificate of insurance provides all of the coverages as requested in the RFP document. Okay. Any questions up until this time?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you state your name, please, and your company?
Yes. Yep. Lane Williams, 3LW Renovations.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a quick question regarding the electronic signature. I know you said, did you want the electronic signature in blue as well, or if it was in black, will they
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, electronic signature usually comes through as black, as a digital print.
Okay, I was just making sure because, okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. All right.
No questions in the chat.
Thank you, James. Excellent. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Moving forward with compliance details. Patrice Doyle, our Director of Compliance. Take it away. Patrice, we cannot hear you. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So for the JOC project, the goal requirements are per the tier. So for tier 1, and again, as Patty mentioned in our previous JOC agreement, the tiers were reversed. But for this project and for tier 1, 32% is MBE, WBE aggregate goal. Once you become a tier 1 contractor and you are awarded contract tier 2, if it falls in that amount of the project, 16% MBE, WBE, and tier 3, 8% MBE, WBE participation. So if it is a tier 1 contract value, I just want to clarify that it will be 32% MBE, WBE. If it is a tier 2 contract value, it's a 16% MBE, WBE, and a tier 3, 8% MBE, WBE aggregate goals. These goals can be met by 1 MBE, 1 WBE, or a combination of MBEs and WBEs. There may be a case where we have a project-specific requirement, and this is just an example. If we deem that the project may not have MBE or WBE goals, or we may separate the goals and identify an MBE percentage and a WBE percentage. That's just an example of what a project-specific goal would indicate, and you would know this once you have been chosen to perform that JOC contract. Currently, we only accept certification from City of Chicago or Cook County. So just make sure when you're getting MBE and WB participation that they are certified, have a current certification with the City of Chicago or with Cook County, and that they are certified in the work that you're seeking to perform credit in. But those are the only certifications we are currently accepting at the PBC for the JOC contract. Typically, the community hiring goal on JOC projects is their award to contractors per various tiers is 7.5% city resident community hiring, and there will be a map relevant to that project, and city residency goal is 50%. We have done project specific where their goal may, there might not be any community hiring goals or any city residency goals, but that's again, a project specific case by case basis. As mentioned, the community hiring area map, this is just an example of what it will look like. CBC will identify the locations of those community areas and include a map within that specific project for the JOC contract. And this is where the 7.5% of the total hours worked will come from. Okay, PBC currently use LCP Tracker for our certified payroll tracking system. That's how we identify the total hours worked, the 7.5 community hiring, the 50% city residency, and the EEO requirements. We use LCP Tracker as our payroll tracking system. We use B2G Now as our MBE, WBE compliance monitoring system to monitor payments to ensure that you are meeting your MBE or WBE requirement for what project that you are awarded if you are selected as a JOC contractor. Established businesses receive the credit amount from the organization that they're certified with. So there's a graduation process, 75% first year, 50% second year, 25% the third year. So it depends on what year of the program they're in, and that is the credit amount that they will receive as an MBE and or WBE that's an established business. Manufacturers receive 100% credit. Suppliers receive 60% credit, and brokers receive 0% credit for MBE, WBE participation. Exhibit B is the Schedule C, which should be completed by the contractor that's an MBE or WBE, and Exhibit C, which is the Schedule D, should be completed by the JOC contractor. And these are just examples of, once you have been selected to be a JOC contractor, the documents that will be required of you. The Schedule D, again, is the credit amount for the MBE, WBE participation, and it should be completed by the JOC contractor. The Schedule C is the MBE, WBE contractor should complete this form, and it identifies the contract amount. And again, the contract amount may not be equal to the credit amount because, as mentioned before, established business receives the percentage amount of credit that they are performing. Suppliers receive 60% credit, and if on the page 2 where they're saying they're subletting any work, if they're subletting to a non-MBE or WBE, that amount is deducted from their credit amount. So the Schedule C should be completed by the subcontractor, and their total contract value should appear on the Schedule C. Okay, and this is what you'll submit. Your past experience performing MBE, WBE participation, EEO requirements, city resident requirement, and community hiring. If you have done JOC in the past and you have had requirements or goals on projects, you can identify those projects. If you do not have any JOC projects that have met or had to meet these requirements, you can include other projects that have MBE, WBE, EEO, city residency, and community hiring participation. If you have not had any projects with these requirements, but you have had projects where you utilize an MBE, WBE, or have your EEO that you maybe achieved 50% was minority journey workers. Include whatever information that you have, because we know we have tiers for our JOC project. So the Tier 3 contractor might not have as much information or detail as the Tier 1 contractor has. So whatever MBE, WBE, EEO, CRO, or CH information that you have, please include it on this Form E. The EEO requirements for the JOC contractors, once selected and awarded a project, is across the board the same for all tiers. Minority journey workers, 50%, minority apprentice, 10%, minority laborers, 50%, female journey workers, 1%, female apprentice, 1%, female laborers, 1%. And also, this may be a project-specific requirement per each JOC project, but these are the standard requirements across the board for selected JOC awardees. This form is the award criteria form. It has been filled in for you because the EEO requirements that were mentioned on the previous slide have been inputted into this format. There's no need to complete the form. It has already been completed for you with the EEO, minority journey workers and female journey workers, apprentice and labor requirements. So submit this form as is. Joint ventures. We encourage joint ventures. It is a good way for a subcontractor, MBE, WBE firm to grow the firm. The purpose of the program is educating and growing so one day become a prime contractor. So we encourage that if you are going to do a joint venture, Form M, the Schedule B must be completed. The joint venture agreement must be provided. It doesn't have to be executed until you have been approved for a JOC contractor. And again, a certification letter as an MBE or WBE that's certified with the City of Chicago or Cook County must be submitted. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I
No
got a
questions in
question.
the chat.
No, someone has a question. Can you say your name and your company that you're with?
David with Sensational Heating and Air, LLC.
Slide is where I'm working at. I'm in the basement, so sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically the question I had, so with the joint ventures from the Form M Schedule B, like, so basically if your firm, isn't that big to be a prime contractor, then you can do a joint venture to where you can, possibly, grow your business to, become like a prime contractor, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So and Patty, please correct me if I'm wrong. There will be an attendance list placed on our website of all of the contractors that have attended this meeting. Also, maybe some of the previous JOC contractors, their information is also on our website. So if you are interested, you might want to take a look at that list and contact and have a conversation, and prayerfully a joint venture will come out of that conversation, and you can submit a bid for this proposal, submit a proposal for this JOC program.
Sure.
So there's a question, but I don't believe it's for me. It says, what is the purpose of the JOC deposit? If we are submitting for multiple tiers, then do we have to give a deposit for each tier?
This is James Borkman, the Director of Procurement. The purpose of the JOC deposit is to ensure that you're serious about your submission and to limit any liability to the Public Building Commission and you. As part of the second part of your question, if we're submitting for multiple tiers, then do we have to give a deposit for each tier? That is something that will be answered in an upcoming addenda. Vanessa, does that answer your question? Thank you.
Are there any more compliance questions? If not, I will turn it back over to Patricia Montenegro.
Okay. So it seems no other questions. I just kind of want to reiterate the information is going to be available on our current opportunities page. We are in the middle of this procurement. The submissions are due December 10th. The RFP document is the document that you should be referring to in order to submit your or provide your submission. We're still in the questions period as well, so you can submit questions up until December 3rd if you don't understand anything from the presentation or from the RFP. Did I mention PBC alerts? Make sure that you're signed up for PBC alerts. We like to reiterate that often here. I also wanted to stress the differences between the forms and the exhibits. So the forms essentially are the forms that you are to submit as part of your submission. Exhibits are generally those forms that you will be required to submit once you are now selected as a contractor for the JOC, and then you'd be asked for proposals. So things like your insurance, payment and performance bond, things of that nature. And I believe that is all. And yes, Patrice and the gentleman who asked, I believe it was David, who asked regarding the joint venture. Yes, the sign-in sheet will be on there so that you can reach out to the prime contractors. Also, you do not have to joint venture with just one. You can joint venture with multiple prime contractors just to get that experience base. Okay. Any other final questions? Sole point of contact, sorry. Again, all questions submitted to my attention, patricia.montenegro@cityofchicago.org. Okay, one last call for questions. If there are none, then thank you for joining us. Have a great day.